and welcome to Midday Prime. Over the next 1 hour, we'll bring you all the stories and updates from India and the world. We will update you about the happenings in the world of business and sports. Our top focus would be on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's interaction with district officials on the COVID-19 situation and the latest on the search and rescue operations for the missing crew of barge P305 off the Mumbai coast. But first up, the big news at this hour. As nation continues to battle the spread of COVID-19, Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes stock of the ground situation, interacts with district magistrates and field officials today. PM emphasizes on the need to focus on villages, use local experiences and also calls for innovation and dynamism in strategy. Less than 3 lakh daily new COVID cases for 4 successive days in the country. Daily recoveries outnumber daily new cases for the 7th consecutive day. India also sets a new record as it conducts the highest ever 20.55 lakh tests in the last 24 hours. "188 persons rescued from the sea from barge P305 that sank near Mumbai in cyclone Tote. Bodies of 37 people recovered. Rescue operations underway. Tote causes widespread rain in northern India. Delhi receives highest ever rainfall in 24 hours and lowest maximum temperature since 1951 for the month of May. Modi government's historic pro-farmer decision to increase fertilizer subsidy by the government. Subsidy on DAP fertilizer increased by 140%. A subsidy of 1200 rupees per sack instead of the earlier 500 rupees. PM Modi says farmers' welfare is government's top priority. Cross-border attacks continue into the 11th day between Israel and Gaza militants, even as US President Joe Biden urges Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to seek a de-escalation. Let's begin the show with the big news at this hour. As COVID-19 cases rise in rural setups, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with district magistrates of 10 states. Officials from Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Kerala, Maharashtra, Odisha, Puducherry, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh took part in the meeting. This is the second meeting of Prime Minister with field officials and district magistrates regarding the COVID situation. Addressing officials, PM underlined the relief efforts taken by district officials.
कोरोना की सेकेंड वेव से लड़ने के लिए एक प्रकार से जिलों के आप सबसे प्रमुख योद्धा है। 100 वर्षों में आई इस सबसे बड़ी आपदा में हमारे पास जो संसाधन है उनका बेहतर से बेहतर उपयोग करके आपने इतनी बड़ी लहर का मुकाबला किया है।
The Prime Minister said that we have to spread awareness in every village.
गांवों में कोरोना टेस्ट की सुविधा अधिक से अधिक लोगों तक पहुंचाने के लिए मोबाइल वैन का तरीका कई लोगों ने अपनाया है। स्कूलों, पंचायत भवनों को कोविड केयर सेंटर्स में परिवर्तित करने का कुछ लोगों ने इनिशिएटिव लिया है। आप लोग खुद गांव-गांव जाते हैं, वहां की व्यवस्थाओं की निगरानी करते हैं, आप ग्रामीणों से बात करते हैं, तो इससे जो वहां का सामान्य नागरिक है या वहां के गांव के जो एक प्रकार से लीडर लोग हैं, 5 होते हैं, 10 होते हैं, 15 होते हैं, अलग अलग क्षेत्र के होते हैं, उनको जब शंकाओं का समाधान होता है और डायरेक्टली आपके साथ जुड़ते हैं तो उनका आत्मविश्वास अनेक गुना बढ़ जाता है.
The Prime Minister also highlighted that now the advance information of vaccine supply is being provided and this will make the vaccination campaign somewhat easier.
टीकाकरण की रणनीति में भी हर स्तर पर राज्यों और अनेक स्टेक होल्डर से मिलने वाले सुझावों को शामिल करके आगे बढ़ाया जा रहा है. इसी क्रम में स्वास्थ्य मंत्रालय की तरफ से 15 दिन के टीकों की उपलब्धता की जानकारी राज्यों को दी जा रही है. वैक्सीन सप्लाई टाइमलाइन की स्पष्टता होने से टीकाकरण से जुड़े मैनेजमेंट में आप सभी को और आसानी होने वाली है. मुझे विश्वास है कि हर जिले और वैक्सीनेशन सेंटर के स्तर पर सप्लाई और सुदृढ़ होगी. इससे टीकाकरण से जुड़ी अनिश्चितताओं को दूर करने में, पूरी प्रक्रिया को स्ट्रीमलाइन करने में बहुत मदद मिलेगी.
Correspondent Arun Sharma now joins us with the latest. Arun, did the Prime Minister stress on the need for constant monitoring and innovation as the virus mutates?
Absolutely, Moon. And I mean, the good news, we know this fact that in urban areas, in big cities, the virus, the curve of this COVID-19 is on a decline. But on the flip side, the virus cases, the COVID cases are gradually increasing in the rural India. And that's the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for innovation. We know this fact that this virus mutates, the variants of virus primarily are spreading. So in that, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself mentions that this is an invisible virus, it mutates, there are variants available. So there is a need primarily to have a dynamic thinking, a dynamic approach as well. And local experiences helps a lot as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned. And that's the reason why Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed to all these district officials, to primarily put in their experiences, how can best practices in various districts that can be implemented in other districts primarily, and how can there be innovative ideas as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned. That should be brought in. These are some of the big highlights that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has discussed as far as his meet with the officials or primarily district officials as far as containing the virus is concerned. So on the other side, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also highlighted this point that there should be primarily a people ease of life to people as well, and of course they should be ensured that how can the containment zones be created. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi has mentioned this point that micro containment zones play an important role as far as containing the virus or combating the virus is concerned. So there has to be a dynamic approach, there has to be an innovative approach as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned, and that message was given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the young officers, primarily the district officials, primarily who are working on the ground to fight against COVID-19.
Right, Arun, did the Prime Minister also stress on the need for ensuring that the vaccination drive does not suffer in rural areas, because he asked the district officials to analyze the vaccination trends in urban areas, rural areas, tier 2 and tier 3 cities as well?
Absolutely, Moon. So there has to be different approach for dealing of the vaccination drive, in different setup. For example, in rural India and urban India, so Prime Minister Narendra Modi on one side has given a clear sense that the availability of vaccine, details of the availability of the vaccine for 15 days will be made available to all the states, number one. Number two, there should not be any kind of vaccine wastage. That was a big message that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very often trying to give in all the various meetings which are being held with the district officials or the state officials, that there should not be even a wastage of vaccine, because primarily the zero wastage primarily as far as the vaccine is concerned. Because if in case one vaccine is wasted, you are taking right of any one person as far as his vaccination right is concerned. So primarily, yes, there should not be any kind of vaccination wastage. And number three, there should be a separate database for rural India and of course urban India as far as vaccination drive is concerned. There has to be awareness. And yes, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly highlighted this point, that yes, availability of the vaccine, details of the availability of the vaccine for 15 days, this will be made available to the state. so that there is ease as far as vaccination drive is concerned. States can plan accordingly on the basis of availability of the vaccine. The states can plan accordingly as far as vaccination drive is concerned. Yes, so vaccination is one of the important subsets as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned, and in that context, primarily, Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted these important aspects as far as vaccination is concerned.
Arun, did the concern for the well-being and health of youth and children also reflect in his address?
Oh, yes, sir. Because, we know this fact that in first wave, in 2020, the senior citizens, people with comorbidity were at higher risk. But this second wave, which rose sharply in this, as far as in the month of April and May is concerned, we have seen that even the youngsters and even children, we have seen the people, these youngsters and children are also infected with COVID-19 disease. So the idea is, Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly highlighted this point that we need to create our infrastructure, number one. Number two, there has to be proper database as well as far as fight against COVID-19 is concerned. Because 100 years back when there was Spanish flu, this fact that a lot of casualties happened 100 years ago. The Prime Minister said that there is no enough data available as far as those flus or those viruses are concerned. But now, for the benefit of our next generations, we need to maintain proper database as far as this virus is concerned. What steps are we taking at the rural level, district level, and at every micro level that needs to be put into proper database so that the future generation or the next generation find it easier to fight against various viruses that might erupt in future. So this database will help a lot. So yes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi did mention this point that children and youngsters are at risk of this COVID-19. We need to take proper care, and of course, vaccination will play an important role as far as this fight against COVID-19 is concerned. But yes, COVID-appropriate behavior, that is the need of the hour, and all the protocols that is being released by the Ministry of Health Affairs, Health Ministry, that should be followed properly. So in that context, he has given a clear message and signal that yes, COVID-appropriate behavior should be adopted, and be it the senior citizens, the younger generation, or the children, they are at the risk of COVID-19, and we have to follow all the health protocols.
Right, Arun, thank you for that. Meanwhile, India's daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 7th consecutive day. Over 3,69,000 recoveries were registered in the last 24 hours. With this, India's cumulative recoveries have reached 2,23,55,440. The national recovery rate has grown further to touch 86.74%. In another positive development, India recorded less than 3 lakh new cases for the 4th consecutive day. 2,76,110 daily new cases were registered in the last 24 hours. On the other front, India's total active caseload has declined to 31,29,878 today. A net decline of 96,841 has been witnessed in the last 24 hours. It now comprises 12.14% of the country's total positive cases. The national mortality rate currently stands at 1.11%. India continues to put up a strong fight against COVID-19. More than 20.55 lakh tests were conducted in the last 24 hours, the highest ever conducted in a single day in India. With this achievement, India broke its own record, which it had set yesterday. Cumulatively, 20,55,010 tests were conducted in the last 24 hours in the country. The cumulative number of COVID-19 vaccine doses administered in the country has reached 18.7 crore today under phase 3 of the nationwide vaccination drive. 11,66,090 vaccine doses were given on day 124th of the vaccination drive on 19th May. Over 5 lakh beneficiaries of the age group 18 to 44 years received their first dose of the vaccine yesterday. Vaccination is an integral pillar of the comprehensive strategy of the Government of India for containment and management of the pandemic, along with test, track, treat and COVID-appropriate behavior. As part of the nationwide vaccination drive, Government of India has been supporting states and UTs by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost. The government has so far provided, both through the free of cost category and through direct state procurement category, more than 21 crore vaccine doses to states and union territories. Of this, the total consumption is 19 crore 9,60,575 doses. Nearly 2 crore COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and UTs to be administered. Furthermore, nearly 26 lakh vaccine doses are in the pipeline and will be received by states and union territories within the next 3 days. Meanwhile, the Union Health Ministry has accepted the recommendations of the National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration for COVID-19. As per new recommendations of NEGVAC, COVID-19 vaccination will be deferred by 3 months after recovery from the illness. If infected with COVID after first dose, second dose is to be deferred by 3 months after clinical recovery from COVID-19 illness. Patients who have been given anti-SARS-2 monoclonal antibodies or convalescent plasma, vaccination is to be deferred by 3 months from the date of discharge from the hospital. Persons with any other serious general illness requiring hospitalization or ICU care should also wait for 4 to 8 weeks before getting the COVID-19 vaccine. An individual can donate blood after 14 days of either receipt of COVID-19 vaccine or testing RT-PCR negative if suffering from COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccination is recommended for all lactating women. There is no requirement for screening of the vaccine recipients by rapid antigen test prior to COVID-19 vaccination. These recommendations have been based on the evolving situation of the COVID-19 pandemic and emerging global scientific evidence and experience. The Indian Council of Medical Research (ICMR) on Wednesday issued an advisory for COVID-19 home testing using rapid antigen tests. It is advised only in symptomatic individuals and immediate contacts of laboratory confirmed positive cases, and indiscriminate testing is not advised. Home testing should be conducted as per the procedure described by the manufacturer in the user manual. The mobile app is a comprehensive guide of the testing procedure and will provide a positive or negative test result to the patient. All individuals who test positive may be considered as true positives and no repeat testing is required. All test positive individuals are advised to follow home isolation and care as per ICMR and Ministry of Health protocol. All symptomatic individuals who test negative by rat should get themselves immediately tested by RT-PCR. This is especially important as the rats are likely to miss few positive cases presenting with a low viral load. All rat negative symptomatic individuals may be treated as suspect COVID-19 cases and are advised to follow the home isolation protocol while awaiting the RT-PCR test result. Manufacturer's instructions must be strictly followed for disposal of the test kit, swab and other materials. Presently, COVID Self-TM COVID-19 OTC antigen LF device that is manufactured by My Lab Discovery Solutions Limited, Pune, has been validated and approved. The Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India has issued a simple, easy-to-follow guideline to stop the transmission chain. The guideline is titled Stop the Transmission, Crush the Pandemic, Masks, Distance, Sanitation and Ventilation to Prevent the Spread of SARS-CoV-2 virus. The advisory highlights the important role well-ventilated spaces play in diluting the viral load of infected air in poorly ventilated houses and offices. The advisory also says that measures to improve ventilation in spaces must be taken up on urgent priority in urban and rural areas. It also says that introduction of cross-ventilation and exhaust fans will be beneficial in curtailing the spread of the disease. Lastly, it speaks that saliva and nasal discharge in the form of droplets and aerosols by an infected person while exhaling, talking, speaking, singing, laughing, coughing or sneezing, etc. is the primary mode of virus transmissions. Hence, it is recommended that people should continue wearing a mask, wear double masks or an N95 mask. On all these COVID-related updates, we are joined by correspondent Tapas. Tapas, on the home testing kits for rapid antigen tests, when are those kits likely to be available in the market and at what price?
Well, Munmun, it is expected that in a week's time, this particular home-based rapid antigen test is going to hit the market. It is currently priced at 250 rupees, including taxes. So it's quite cheap, but its availability is a point that a lot of people are looking at, because may not be available at each and every place. So they're looking at least metro cities to start with, and then probably take it up further in the rural areas. Now, having said that, there are a couple of things that needs to be taken into consideration. The first and foremost is that the one has to download an app to both Play Store also with Apple Store. Both versions are available. And also, one has to after one gets the test done, they have to upload a picture of the test report on that, so that the picture goes straight to the ICMR's safe server, where it will be there as a point of understanding what the person has gone through. So that is one. The second part is also about the discarding of the test kit, because once it's done, it has to be discarded, and proper manual usage of the manual is a very important part, where it's being told that they have to put it in a particular kit and then it has to be disposed. It can't be just disposed of just throwing it off. So those are some of the key points that are there. The other part that is very clearly mentioned is that even though it's a rat test, there may be a situation where a person who may show symptoms, but his test result may come negative in this particular rat test. They may have to again undergo RT-PCR test. The other part is that if it comes positive, and the reason they are saying that it may come negative in the first place is that because of the virus load, which may be less in an individual at that particular time, so it can come, the sensitivity of the rat test is less than the RT-PCR. So hence it is advisable that if a person has symptoms, he or she, if he gets negative in this particular test, has to go and get an RT-PCR result done. But if it is a positive test, they do not have to go, and it is report is considered inclusive. So that is the other part. These are some of the points that need to be taken into consideration, especially while you have to manage this particular home test rapid antigen testing. Because one has to be very clear, very precise while undergoing this particular test.
Right, Tapas, the NEGVAC has recommended that lactating mothers in India can get themselves vaccinated, but do we still have to wait for clarity on vaccination of pregnant women?
Yes, because the report that has come out in international journals, if we take a close look at that, it quite clearly says that the lactating mothers can take, and it is quite safe, especially when it comes to the couple of vaccines that are already in demand in the country. So international reports also put across the fact that if lactating mothers takes the vaccine, the immunity it also gives to the child. So that is one part of it. Though there are contrary points that are there, that there is still no clarity on the part of a pregnant lady taking the vaccine. So as of now, it has been put on hold. But it's a huge decision by the government to allow lactating mothers, because remember, there are a lot of people who are clamoring for the vaccine, especially the lactating mothers who are quite a danger, and they were and in many places where we have gone for the vaccines, they have been told that till the time the government doesn't come out with a clear instruction, clear understanding, they may not be able to vaccinate the lactating mothers. So this particular report and recommendation from the government of India will go a long way in clearing those doubts and will help the people, especially the lactating mothers, to come out and get themselves vaccinated.
Right, Tapas. Besides this, there are other aspects as well. For instance, there is a communication that has come in from the principal scientific advisor on the issue of ventilation, that the home spaces or office spaces need to be well ventilated. There needs to be cross ventilation. So is it a reiteration of what's already been said quite a few times, that we need to ensure that there is proper ventilation. We need to keep our doors and windows open, even if partially open, in order to ensure that the aerosols can spread over a wide area, and hence the likelihood of getting infected is much low.
Absolutely. In fact, if you take a close look at the Business Scientific Advisors Office report or the recommendation and the release that has come out, it's quite clearly reiterates the already prevalent point that one has to wear the mask, one has to keep this social distancing. The main important part in this particular report or advisory that has come out from the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office is that an offices or houses needs to be well ventilated. Why it is important? Because as an aerosol, if it's a closed door or if it's a closed office, a closed house, aerosol has a tendency to stay on ground and stay at the particular place for a long duration time. It can live there for a long duration time, and if there is a ventilation that is going on, the cross ventilation is going on, it is quite easy that this particular aerosol will go away and will make the particular place safer to use, and that's a very important point that has been given on most of the offices, most of the places, or in fact houses where people are staying, COVID patients are staying, are not quite ventilated. And earlier it was felt that they need to be shut down their houses or shut down their rooms, but it is not the case. It has to be ventilated properly, ventilated. So that is one point. The other point that they have also made it is that about double masking. They've clearly said that if you have an N95, that is great. If you do not have, try to have a surgical mask and wear a cloth mask on top of it. And if you do not even have a surgical mask, try to wear two cloth masks on top of it. So double masking is something that they have been and we have been hearing, we have been talking about it. The Principal Scientific Advisor's Office has once again reiterated this particular aspect. So, two very important aspects has been stated out in this particular advisory from the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office, and I believe that this is a welcome move, especially the one where they spoke about the fact that offices and houses needs to be well ventilated in order for the virus to be to be leaving aside. So that is one point. This is something that our forefathers have always been talking about, the cross ventilation. Whenever earlier they used to make houses that were designed in such a manner, and it comes out as once again as the point that what our forefathers has earlier decided, has done. Still stays quite relevant in these particular times, and hence it is quite imperative, it is very important that cross ventilation or ventilation of a particular place where COVID patients are or suspected COVID patients are there should be maintained.
Tapas, is there also clarity now on when a person who's infected by coronavirus can go in for vaccination, and if that happens after taking the first dose, when that person can go in for a second dose?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Mohammed, there was a lot of confusion. You quite rightly mentioned this particular part, because I remember even my parents, when they got after the first dose, they got COVID, and there was a bit of a confusion with when they can get the second dose, and there was at that time a lot of confusion. But the government has come out with the list of do's and don'ts, and they've made it very clear: if you have got a COVID positive even after the first dosage, or you have got COVID, there is no point taking it taking the vaccine thereafter. You can easily wait for 3 months. At least 3 months gap is required, and then after that you can take the second vaccine, or for the matter the first vaccine. So 3 months gap period is that has been given. Earlier there was a lot of confusion among a lot of people who even though have got COVID and have recovered, they wanted to straight away go to the vaccination center and get themselves vaccinated. But now all this confusion has been put into rest, and the government guidelines quite clearly said that one has to have a 3 months gap, and there is a reason. There is a scientific reason, because once you get COVID positive, you automatically develop antibodies in your body, and it is advisable that that one keeps those antibodies as much as you can, because those are natural antibodies, and then take the vaccine, which will act as in many ways what you call as a booster for your body. So that is something that they've been talking about, and this particular guideline has come as a massive shot in the arm of those people who were a little confused, and now it has given them a clarity about the usage of the vaccine.
Thanks, Tapas, for those updates. Amid the persisting threat of further rise in COVID-19 cases in Rajasthan, the state administration has decided to extend Section 144 till the 21st of June. Issuing an order, the state government said that Section 144, which restricts the assembly of 5 or more persons, will remain in force till 21st June, and the curbs have also been extended to control the spread of COVID-19 in the state. Rajasthan had last month decided to impose Section 144 in the state from 22nd April till the 21st of May. The Rajasthan government had also ordered closure of offices and markets from 19th April to 3rd May. The battle against the COVID pandemic is underway across the country. Whenever you visit Bilashpur village in Unakoti district of Tripura, you will find a gate erected. The villagers call it the Gate of Awareness. The village panchayat has put in a special effort to deal with the pandemic, which has resulted in 0 COVID cases in the village till now. Here is our report.
Welcome to Bilaspur village under Chandipur block of Unakoti district. Villagers here till now have been able to control COVID, and this has happened as a result of stellar efforts being put by village panchayat in generating awareness and ensuring COVID appropriate behavior.
আমরা এই বিলাসপুর পঞ্চায়েতে এখন অবধি আমাদের কোনো করোনা মুক্ত কোনো রোগী পাওয়া গেছে না। আমরা চাই আমাদের গ্রাম যাতে করোনা থেকে মুক্ত রাখা। আমাদের পঞ্চায়েতের উদ্যোগে আমরা এই রাস্তার মধ্যে একটা বাস বাঁধা রাখছি যাতে বহিরাগত কোনো লোক আইলে আমাদের কোনো বিশেষ প্রয়োজন ছাড়া যাতে ঢুকতে না পারে। আমরা জলের ব্যবস্থা, স্যানিটাইজারের ব্যবস্থা রাখছি যাতে আমাদের পঞ্চায়েত সুরক্ষিত থাকে।
Let's go across now to a press conference.
जी ने आज तक प्रधानमंत्री के द्वारा आहूत कितनी बैठकों में भाग लिया है? 17 मार्च को चुनाव के प्रचार में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने मुख्यमंत्रियों की बैठक बुलाई थी, जब महाराष्ट्र के कोरोना के आंकड़ों के आलोक में लगा कि देश में बताने की ज़रूरत है। वहाँ ममता जी नहीं थी। पहले भी प्रधानमंत्री ने जितनी बैठक बुलाई है, ममता जी एक आध छोड़ करके किसी में भी हाजिर नहीं हुई हैं। और इसके अलावे हमारे पास तो बाकायदे डेटा है कि 14 में पीएम के साथ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बैठक में ममता जी नहीं आई, लैंड बिल पर 2015 में ममता जी बैठक में नहीं आई, 2019 में नीति आयोग की गवर्निंग बॉडी में ममता जी ने भाग नहीं लिया, 2019 में वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन की बैठक में भी ममता जी ने भाग नहीं लिया जो सीएम के साथ बुलाई गई थी। तो ये है कि वो मीटिंग में प्रधानमंत्री के साथ भाग नहीं लेती और आज मीटिंग को डिस्टर्ब करना चाहती हैं। मैं ममता जी से एक सवाल पूछता हूं कि अगर भारत के प्रधानमंत्री भारत के सभी कलेक्टर से, जिलाधिकारी से उनके जिले में अच्छे काम किए कितने हैं उसकी जानकारी प्राप्त कर रहे हैं, इसमें क्या परेशानी है? ऐसा क्यों नहीं होना चाहिए? हमें मालूम है कि कई जिलों में अच्छा काम हुआ है। वो जिला में शासन किस राजनीतिक रंग का है इससे नरेंद्र मोदी जी को मतलब नहीं है। बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस कहीं भी हो उसका सदुपयोग होना चाहिए। तो हमें लगा कि आज जो उनका आचरण हुआ है वो दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, वो शर्मनाक है और उसकी हम गंभीर रूप से निंदा करते हैं। आज जब कोरोना की लड़ाई में देश एकजुट कर लड़ना चाहिए, लगना चाहिए और प्रधानमंत्री जी रोज मेहनत करते हैं उसके लिए, देश के लोगों से चर्चा करते हैं, समाज से करते हैं, अधिकारियों से करते हैं, डॉक्टरों से करते हैं, मुख्यमंत्रियों से करते हैं, उद्योगपतियों से करते हैं, उस समय इस तरह का आचरण ये बहुत पीड़ादायक है। इसलिए मुझे लगा कि इस विषय को रखना चाहिए। हम इतना ही कहेंगे कि अभी भी समय है कि हम राजनीति से ऊपर उठकर कम से कम एक स्वर में जनता की चिंता तो करें। आज अच्छा समय है कि थोड़ा कोरोना का ग्राफ कम हो रहा है, प्रयास सफल हो रहे हैं और मेहनत करने की ज़रूरत है। तो इस समय एक स्वर हो, ये बहुत ज़रूरी है। और ममता जी, मैं आपसे आग्रह करूंगा, आप कृपया कर कर अपने कॉन्शियस में झांक कर देखें कि आपने जो आज आचरण किया है वो उचित है क्या। तो किसी मायने में लोकतांत्रिक शासन में मर्यादित आचरण नहीं है। इंग्लिश में ही बोलना है क्या? इंग्लिश में ही बोलना हो गया है? Today, I wish to make my comment on a matter of great distress on democratic governance of the country. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been repeatedly engaging himself with various stakeholders to improve the pro-COVID containment exercise in the country. And in that process, he is also engaging with various district magistrates of different states to know the best practices undertaken by a collector in his district. And this is being done by all states of the country. Today was a meeting of few states including Bengal, and Srimati Mamata Banerjee sought to interrupt that meeting, that the chief ministers are only made to listen, and she did not allow the district magistrate of 24th Pargana to share his views about what best practices he has undertaken. She was completely wrong, because in the earlier meetings, DMs of the state of Maharashtra, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh have also participated. And what is the harm if the PM wants to know the best practices of all the collectors of India as to what they are doing, so that it can be replicated elsewhere? This behavior is shameful, is condemnable, and least expected from the chief minister of a big state in a meeting called by the Prime Minister, when the entire country needs to speak in unison in the fight against COVID. But nothing better can be expected from Mamata ji. She rarely attends a meeting which Prime Minister Narendra Modi calls. On the 17th March, when the PM called a meeting in the wake of surge of corona, keeping in mind Maharashtra data, she did not attend the meeting. She has not attended meeting earlier also, be it one rank, one pension, be it on the land bill, be on infrastructure, or the governing body meeting of Niti Aayog. You don't attend meeting, that is entirely your call. But to come in the meeting and seek to derail the meeting is very, very unfair. Obviously, something good would have emerged also for the state of Bengal. Therefore, I would only say, when the country needs to speak in one voice, today's behavior of Mamata ji is something which we deeply regret and strongly condemn. Thank you.
Union Minister and BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad slamming West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, questioning her protest against meetings that Prime Minister has been holding with chief ministers as well as with district officials or field officials in the past, and saying that some good would have come out of such meetings. Why was the district magistrate of North 24 Parganas not allowed to participate in the meeting and share best practices and experiences of dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic in the district with the Prime Minister? So a full-blown attack by the BJP on Mamata Banerjee. The BJP also outlining how Mamata Banerjee did not attend several meetings that were convened by the centre since May 2014. Let's move on now to our developing story. Leaving behind a trail of destruction, Cyclone Tauktae has further weakened into a low-pressure area. Meanwhile, rescue operations continued in full swing to save ships and crew. Indian Navy has so far rescued 188 people from barge P305 that had gone adrift on Monday in the wake of Cyclone Tauktae. Mortal remains of 38 people have been found so far, while 38 are still missing. Earlier on Wednesday, INS Kochi and INS Kolkata arrived at Mumbai harbour and disembarked survivors and mortal remains. Indian Navy ships and aircraft meanwhile continue to search for the missing crew members of the ill-fated barge P305. INS Kochi has rejoined search and rescue operations. Coast Guard units have also joined search and rescue operations. Mumbai Police has meanwhile registered an accidental death report in connection with the death of the personnel on the barrage.
तौकते तूफान के वजह से अरेबियन सी में P305 बार्ज और एक और टग ऐसे दो वेसल में टोटल 274 लोग फंसे हुए थे। इसमें से 220 लोगों को इंडियन नेवी और कोस्ट गार्ड के सहायता से रेस्क्यू किया गया है और अब तक जो माहिती उपलब्ध है उसके अनुसार 22 लोग मयत हुए हैं। इनके डेड बॉडीज हैंडओवर किया गया है और इसके बारे में येलो गेट पुलिस स्टेशन में 22 ADR रजिस्टर किया गया है और इसकी अधिक चौकसी पुलिस करती है।
Our correspondent Shishir Shelar is joining us now from Mumbai. Shishir, before we come to the investigation on the case, is there hope for the missing 38 crew members of barge P305?
Well, currently almost 188 people have been survived so far from this, and yesterday we have seen that INS Kochi brought 125 people. Yesterday midnight we have seen INS Kolkata have also brought some of the survivors from the spot. So currently, if you look at the tallies almost 188 survivors so far rescued from this operation, and 37 mortal remains recovered by the Indian Navy. There are 5 teams. The 5 Indian naval ships are currently deployed for this operation: INS Betwa, INS Teg, INS Kochi, INS Kolkata, and INS Bias. Well, apart from that, Indian Navy also said that they will also deploy INS Talwar to also join this operation here. Currently, INS Talwar is doing a coordination work for the 2 barges which off the coast of Gujarat, which have been towed back successfully by the ONGC vessels here. Nearly 300 people were actually stuck on those 2 barges, and those have been successfully towed back here. So now INS Talwar will also join this operation. So if you look at the entire operation, nearly 5 ships have been deployed. Apart from that, the naval surveillance aircraft P8I. Apart from that, the helicopters also been deployed. Seeking helicopters, Chetak helicopters have also been deployed here. So the Navy is currently doing the search and rescue operation in full swing here. And if you believe that probably, if you look at this entire operation here, they try to rescue maximum people as they can. Because if you look at the numbers which were persons working on board to P305 is almost 261 people. And that's why currently, even right now also, day and night, the Navy is doing the operation here, hoping that probably they will rescue maximum people as they can. Meanwhile, just we've heard that 22 ADRs have been registered by the Mumbai police here, by the Yellow Gate here, and they will also carry out the investigation that how this entire incident happened.
Right, Shishir. Thank you for those updates. Meanwhile, the centre has set up a high-level committee to inquire into the sequence of events leading to the stranding of ONGC vessels in Cyclone Tauktae. Several vessels of ONGC with more than 600 people on board were stranded in offshore areas during Cyclone Tauktae. The stranding, drifting and subsequent events have led to loss of several lives. Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas informed that a committee comprising the Director General of Shipping, Director General of Hydrocarbons and Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Defence has been constituted to inquire into the incidents. The committee will look into several aspects which include whether the warnings issued by the Met Department and other statutory authorities were adequately considered and acted upon. It will also inquire into the lapses and gaps in the systems leading to the stranding and drifting of the vessels, and will also make recommendations to prevent recurrence of such incidents. The committee will submit its report within 1 month. And now let's shift focus to national prime. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday chaired a high-level meeting on the issue of fertilizer prices. The Prime Minister stressed that farmers should get fertilizers at the old rates despite the international rise in prices. A decision was taken to increase the subsidy for di-ammonium phosphate DAP fertilizer from 500 rupees per bag to 1200 rupees per bag, which is an increase of 140%. Despite rise in international market prices of DAP, it has been decided to continue selling it at the older price of 1200 rupees, and the central government has decided to bear all the burden of price hike. The amount of subsidy per bag has never been increased so much at once. The actual price of DAP last year was 1700 rupees per bag, in which the government was giving subsidy of 500 rupees per bag. The companies were selling fertilizers to farmers for 1200 rupees per bag. The international prices of phosphoric acid, ammonia and others used in DAP recently have gone up by 60 to 70%. The actual price of a DAP bag is now 2400 rupees, which could be sold by fertilizer companies at 1900 rupees, after considering a subsidy of 500 rupees. After the decision, farmers will continue to get DAP bag for 1200 rupees. This is the second major decision in farmers' interest after directly transferring 20,667 crore rupees in farmers' account under PM Kisan on the day of Akshaya Tritiya. Prime Minister remarked that his government is committed to the welfare of farmers and will make all efforts to ensure that farmers do not have to face the burden of price rise. And in Midday Prime, it's time now for news and updates from the world of business. And my colleague Tanvi now joins us with Business Prime.
Thank you, Munmun. The domestic stock markets traded lower amid volatility in afternoon trade session. So after a weak opening, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange lost 259 points, or 0.5%, to 49,644 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange was down 112 points, or 0.8%, to 14,918. In the broader market, the BSE mid-cap index slipped 0.1% and the small-cap index had managed to gain 0.2%. Selling pressure was seen among metal stocks, IT, FMCG and energy sectors. The top index losers so far have been ONGC, Sun Pharma, Bharti Airtel, Nestle and Axis Bank with losses of between 0.9 and 2%. The top index gainers were Mahindra & Mahindra, IndusInd Bank, Titan Company, Larsen and Ultra Tech Cement with gains of between 0.5 and 2.3%. Over on Wall Street, the main indices closed lower on Wednesday after minutes from an April Federal Reserve meeting showed participants agreed the US economy remained far from the central bank's goals, with some eyeing a future discussion of tapering its bond buying program. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.5% to 33,898. The S&P 500 lost 0.3% to 4,116. And the Nasdaq Composite Index dropped 0.03% to 13,300. Elsewhere in Asia, stock markets dipped, tracking overnight Wall Street losses, while a crash in cryptocurrencies also weighed on sentiment. So South Korea's Kospi was down 0.3%, the Shanghai Composite Index dipped 0.1%, and the Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index dropped 0.7%. But the Japanese shares ended marginally higher on Thursday as gains by chip-related stocks tracking US peers offset losses in cyclical shares. So the Nikkei 225 rose 0.2%. So with that, it's a wrap in our Business Prime segment for now. Back to you, Munmun.
Thanks, Tanvi, for that. And now let's have a look at what's making news across the globe. Cross-border attacks continue between Israel and Gaza militants. The fighting between Israeli and defense forces and Hamas escalated into the worst flare-up since the Gaza war in 2014. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has meanwhile said that he is determined to continue this operation until its aim is met, despite US President Joe Biden's call for a de-escalation of hostilities in Gaza. Meanwhile, a senior Hamas official, Musa Abu Marzouk, said that he expected Israel and the Gaza militants to reach a ceasefire within a day or two, ending the cross-border violence. In the meantime, a fresh barrage of rockets hit the Israeli cities of Ashkelon and Sderot, causing damage to houses and vehicles, but with no casualties reported. Local residents were rushed to bomb shelters, while rockets were seen being intercepted in the sky by Israel's Iron Dome anti-missile system over Ashkelon. Israeli residents say they oppose a ceasefire and voice a willingness to reach a decisive result in the fight against Hamas. Israeli authorities put the death toll at 12 in Israel, where repeated rocket attacks have caused panic and sent people rushing into shelters. Regional and US-led diplomatic efforts to secure a ceasefire have intensified, but so far failed. Earlier on Tuesday, an Israeli missile attack damaged the health ministry building in the Gaza Strip. The Al-Rimal Clinic, Gaza's only COVID-19 testing laboratory, was also severely damaged by Israel's attack. The strike killed 2 people, including a child, and injured 10 others. Meanwhile, the United Nations General Assembly today will convene to discuss the ongoing conflict between Israel and Gaza. The meeting is convened by the current president of the UN General Assembly, Volkan Bozkir. The 15-member UNSC met publicly for the first time on Sunday with a flare-up in the conflict between Israel and Palestinians. The US, for the third time in a week, blocked a joint statement from the UN Security Council calling for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. At least 200 Palestinians, including women and children, have been killed in Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip since last week. 10 Israelis have also been killed in Palestinian rocket fire from the Gaza Strip into Israel. And now let's take a look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world. The virus has infected more than 16 crore 55 lakh people, while the number of recoveries stand above 14 crore 46 lakh globally. Over 34 lakh, in fact 32,000 fatalities due to COVID-19 have been reported worldwide. The United States continues to remain the worst affected with COVID-19. It reported over 3 crore 38 lakh cases of COVID-19. The US reported death toll crossing 6 lakh mark. And it's time now for stories from the world of sports. My colleague Sujitra now joins us with Sports Prime.
Thank you, Manu. Let's start with the cricket update. Indian women will play their first ever day-night test when they tour Australia in September. The test will be played at the Waka ground in Perth. Before this test, 3 ODIs will be played at North Sydney Oval and the Junction Oval. The tour will conclude with 3 T20 internationals at North Sydney Oval. This will be only the second test in women's cricket to be played under lights with a pink ball. The only other women's day-night test also featured Australia, in which they drew with England in Sydney in 2017. This will be India's first test in Australia since the Adelaide Test in 2006. India is set to play 2 tests in the same year for the first time since 2014. The Bristol Test against England from June 16th, in which they will be led by Mithali Raj, will be India's first test match since they beat South Africa in Mysore in November 2014. The Sports Authority of India will extend medical and accident insurance cover to more than 13,000 athletes, coaches and support staff from this year. This is in keeping with the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports decision to ensure the safety and well-being of all athletes and support staff in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic in India. The insurance cover of ₹5 lakh each will be provided to all national campers, probable national campers, Khelo India athletes and junior campers training at Sai Centre of Excellence. While the health insurance would be for ₹5 lakh each, it also includes a ₹25 lakh cover for accident or death. So those were some sports updates. Back to you, Manu.
Thanks, Suchitra, for that. And with that, we come to the close of this edition of Midday Prime. Do remember to keep your masks on whenever you venture out of your homes and also indoors if there are people around you. Thanks for watching.